Hi everyone, I am here with our next chapters. Chapter 19. Hours later, I was kicked awake by Borland. It's time to go, he growled. I yawned and stretched, and so did Wolf. Goldie was still asleep and snoring in Borland's bed, something that seemed to be causing him no small amount of distress. He poked and prodded her and even yanked her curls, and finally tugged at her shawl until she tumbled out onto the floor. Goldie's eyes fluttered open. She sat up, stretched. I've never slept so well in my life, she declared. Borland grumbled and crunched on a few diamonds. Emeralds. Romelda had prepared more strog for the rest of us. I drank it down quickly and thanked her and Rhubarb for their kindness. You're welcome here, said Romelda, even if you don't take Borland by the beard, though it serves him right. Always going to the surface. Borland took us back through the cave tunnels with a fresh lantern, and in less than an hour we'd emerged above ground. The sun was rising, and after spending so many hours in the dim caves, I had to shield my eyes against the brightness. We're not far from the castle, said Borland. Just down the stream and past those hills. As we walked along the stream, Goldie and I washed the dust and grime from ourselves as best as we could. Wolf rolled around in the water until he was black again, and then shook his fur so he splattered it all over Borland. Filthy mongrel, grunted Borland, though I secretly suspected he had grown fond of Wolf. We came to the steep hill. The stream disappeared into a tunnel, and we walked up the hill. We reached to the top and saw a valley lay below. The stream trickled out like a shining lake, and on the other side of the lake was a castle. The morning mist hung thick in the little valley below, with the castle towers and turrets peeping through like they were rising out of a cloud. There is your enchanted castle, said Borland. Oh, how glorious, said Goldie. Wouldn't you like to live there, Red? We could be queens. Thank you, Borland, I said. You've been very kind. Borland raised an eyebrow and turned to leave. Wait, I said. Another demand, he said coolly. I pulled out my ring and yanked it from the chain around my neck. I instantly felt a weight being lifted. Here, I said, and I placed the ruby ring in Borland's hand. This is for you. He stared at it, his beard twitched. But this is very valuable to you. It's a silly thing, humans wearing rocks when there are those that could eat them. Yes, foolish. Borland gave me a smile, one that was warm and kind instead of the sharp and sinister one he always gave. He tucked the ring inside of his pocket, not his pouch. I had a feeling he wouldn't eat it. Good luck with your enchanted castle and roses, said Borland. Take care of your beard, I said. Borland bowed respectfully to us and then went back down the hill while Goldie, Wolf, and I went down the opposite side to the enchanted castle. The mist surrounding the castle was so thick I could barely see Wolf walking in front of me, but I could smell the roses. The air was drenched with their perfume. You could taste it when you breathed. The castle was surrounded by a stone wall with heavy iron gates overgrown with thorny vines. They opened as we watched Wolf approach. That's friendly, said Goldie. Creepy, more like it, I said. Wolf growled. He felt threatened. We walked through the gates and entered a garden smothered in roses, drowning in roses, creamy white, butter yellow, perfect pink, dusky lavender. They grew around statues and benches, cascaded over bridges and trellises, and climbed the castle walls. Goldie sniffed each blossom she passed. Such lovely roses! I should take a bouquet of these to Mummy. She'd be overcome with love. She sniffed and sniffed until I was certain she was intoxicated. I saw no red roses, but that wasn't surprising. Magic roses wouldn't just be sitting out in plain sight, and they'd likely be protected. Granny protected her garden from pests with a repellent spell. She called it a resbellent. Crawly critters of the woods, keep out of my garden goods. Do not try to nosh and nibble, lest we have a little quibble. If any creature did try to nosh or nibble, the magic prevented them from eating for almost a full day. A squirrel's teeth would grow too big for its mouth. If a worm or caterpillar managed to creep into an apple, the bug would swell up so big it couldn't get out. And if a beetle landed on a cabbage or tomato, it would pop into its body like a turtle. I pulled the hood of the cloak over my head, hoping that I'd have to find out what it feels like to have your head pop inside. I left Goldie and her sniffing and walked towards the center of the garden, closer to the castle. It was grand and imposing, bigger than the castle in the kingdom, and hewn out of smooth stone. The towers and ledges were adorned with ruby-eyed gargoyles. Wolf growled, "Danger." "They're stone," I said, but I gathered my cloak tighter still, trying to shield myself from a sudden chill. We went through the maze of roses, pale peach, deep violet, white with pink tips, and yellow with orange tips. There were even blue roses, but no red ones. After a time, we came to the tall hedge that grew in a circular fashion, with vines and branches so closely knit you couldn't see a single thing beyond them. We walked all around it. There was no opening. I got down on my hands and knees and wiggled down the thorny branches just enough to see a flash of red. My heart leapt. "They're here," I said. "Wolf, help me dig a hole to get through." Wolf whimpered, backing away. He didn't like thorns. "Don't be afraidy, Wolf," I said, but he didn't help me. "Fine, I'll do it myself." I steeled my nerves and went into war with the roses. They put up a good fight, scratching my face and hands, snagging the cloak, and I fought back. I tore my way through until I tumbled to the other side of the bush and landed on all fours. Wolf cleared the hedge with a spectacular leap. He landed next to me with an expression that could only be described as smug. "Show off," I muttered. I stood brushing the dirt and leaves from my clothes, and then stilled as I took in the view before me. Roses, red roses, the reddest I've ever seen. At first glance, they looked like ordinary flowers, but as I drew closer, I detected a soft glow around the edges that pulsed like a beating heart. They hummed with life and smelled of transformation. I reached out to pick one, and then paused. Something rustled close by. Snap! "Who's there?" I asked. "Ouch! Ouch, you nasty roses!" "Goldie," I called. Her voice sounded near. "Oh, ouch, Red!" The roses had captured her curls, and they won't let him go. I chuckled softly. "Hang on," I called to her. "I'll be there in a minute." I turned back to the red roses. I wrapped my hand in my cloak, feeling like I was not supposed to touch the rose myself. It would upset the magic, and I wanted it to be perfect for Granny. I reached for the rose again. There was more rustling, noticeably closer this time. Wolf started to whimper and paw at the ground. "Danger." "Hush," I whispered. "It's just a bird or something." But my heart was beating fast now. Time to take what I needed and leave. I took hold of one of the thorny stems and snapped it off the bush. I'd done it. I had a red rose. "Let's go," I said. Something crashed on the ground before me. Dirt sprayed up in my face, and I turned and shielded myself from another boulder-like object that came down falling from the sky. Another crashed, and another, until Wolf and I were surrounded by gargoyles. The stone demons were alive. They had curled horns, flared nostrils, and pointed bony wings. The ruby eyes glared as they flapped their wings and gnashed their stone teeth. They crawled on hands and feet, closing in on Wolf and me. We growled and snapped at them, baring his teeth, his fangs. I clutched the fur of his neck, trying to swallow the fear crawling in my throat. "It's all right," I said. "They can't hurt us. My cloak will protect us." One gargoyle pounced on Wolf, and they snarled and wrestled on the ground, while the others continued to crawl toward me on all sides. I whipped my cloak at the monsters. It protected us before. It had stung the water sprites, it shielded us from falling rocks, but it seemed to have no effect on the gargoyles. They crept closer, stone tongues licking their curled lips. Wolf was still fighting, biting and clawing at the gargoyle, but didn't seem to do much of a flinch. How could he harm a stone gargoyle? They're not made of flesh and bone and blood. If Granny was there, she'd perform a charm that would turn him back into rigid stone, but I feared if I turned myself into stone if I tried such of a thing. The gargoyles were interested for me. One tore the red rose from my hand and flung it to the ground. Two more lifted me up by the arms and flew me over the hedge. "Stop," said a voice, and the gargoyles halted, mid-flight, dropping me to the ground. I turned to see a tall figure in a black hood walking toward me. It seemed to be a man. But his gait was strange. He was lame or injured. Still, whoever it was clearly had a command of the gargoyles. Here was someone that could free us. But then he removed his hood, and the blood drained from my face. The man was not a man at all. His face was covered in matted fur. His long nose blended with his forehead like a cat's. His lips were black and fangs curled down over his chin from more grotesquely than the gargoyles. "What are you doing in my garden?" he said in a deep, growling voice. "I need a rose for my Granny. She's sick." "And you thought you'd steal from me?" Wolf came bounding across the garden. He attacked the beast, clawing and biting him, but the beast flung him off. The gargoyles pounced, Wolf like feral cats. "Wolf, I struggled against the gargoyles, but the beast knocked me on the ground and held me down with one paw. His claws dug into me like daggers. "Leave him alone," I shouted. "No one touches my roses," the beast roared. "He didn't touch them, I did. You have so many, I don't think it would matter." "My roses matter a great deal," said the beast, and I knew he was talking about their magic. He knew the power they had, and he wanted to keep it all to himself. "Please," I begged, "my granny's dying." "Then go home and say your goodbyes," said the beast. "That's what humans do. Take her away." The gargoyle snatched me up once again and started to carry me away from the red roses. Now it was certain the roses would save Granny. I was so close. "But her name is Rose," I shouted. "Rose Red, and the red roses are her destiny. Please." "Stop," said the beast, and the gargoyle obeyed. "Put her down." The gargoyle released me instantly, so I fell to the ground. "What did you just say?" the beast demanded. "My granny, she's sick." No, her name. What was her name, you said?" I swallowed. This was the crucial moment. It would either tip things in my favor or against me. "Rose," I said. "Sometimes she's called Rose Red, and sometimes she's called the Witch of the Woods." The beast was still, as were the gargoyles, as though the name had cast some kind of spell on them. You're her grandchild, this Rose Red," the beast said softly. I nodded. "Her only grandchild. Please, she's ill. She'll die if I don't bring her a rose, and she can't die." The whole world was quiet, holding its breath until the beast spoke. "Get rid of the wolf," he commanded. "No," I shouted. "Let him go. Don't hurt him." I tried to stand, but the gargoyles held me in place. I could hear Wolf growling and snarling. "Wolf, run," I shouted. "Don't fight. Run." Wolf yelped. He was tossed up in the air just high enough that I caught a glimpse of him, and then the gargoyles carried him away while the beast lifted me off the ground with one arm like it was nothing but a kitten. Caught. "I'm free," I heard the Goldie shout. Goldie, I had forgotten about her. I couldn't see her. I hoped the beast couldn't either. She was my only hope. "Goldie, run and get help." "It's okay. I don't need help anymore. I beat those beastly roses." I saw Goldie's curls bouncing above the rose bushes. She was coming right towards the beast. "Goldie, turn around. Run the other way." Goldie stopped and turned, but the gargoyles flew over the rose bushes and blocked her path. She screamed and curled into a ball. The beast leapt over the hedge with incredible power and speed. He scooped her up and carried us both under each arm, dangling sideways. "Oh, Red, have we been caught by a bear?" She was staring at the beast's feet, which were not feet at all, but giant hairy paws with razor-sharp claws. "No, it's not a bear," I said. The beast bounded up the stone staircase and set a large double doors that swung open on their own and shut as soon as they were closed. We were now prisoners of a beast. Chapter 20. The Beast's Feast. The beast locked us in a room and left without a word. Goldie scrambled to the door and pounded. "Please," I cried. "I'll never see Mummy again. I'll never be loved." She rattled the door handle and slid down the floor and lay in a puddle of tears. I sat next to Goldie, too shocked to cry. A memory flashed through my head the last time I had been imprisoned in a castle with a rump. It had been his own magical mess that had brought us there. This time it was no one to blame but myself, and it was up to me to get us out. I took stock of the room. It was not a cellar or cage, but a decent room with 2 beds. The bedspreads were embroidered with roses, red on one and yellow on the other, as though the beast had known ahead of time that Goldie and I were coming, or the castle had. I went to the window and searched the castle grounds for any sign of Wolf. Did he escape? Could I escape? Not likely. We were very high off the ground, and there were no trees near the window. A clock ticked on the wall, and it was in the shape of a rose, a red one. The red petals splayed evenly outward, and the thorny stems and leaves in the place of the hands. The clock tick-tocked 1,000 times, and when the stronger stem reached out to the top hour, a little door opened and a bird emerged that chirped through a message. But nothing happened. The beast did not come. "What do you think the beast will do with us?" Goldie said. "I don't know. Do you think he's mean? He's going to eat us?" Goldie asked. "Perhaps, though in that case he probably would have brought us to the kitchen or the cellar." The clock chirped again and again, and we've been locked in the room for 5 hours, according to the bird. "I'm hungry," said Goldie, as the door clicked and swung open, but no one entered. "Do you suppose there's a ghost in the castle?" Goldie said. "Maybe." I walked to the door and peered out. There was no one there. I took a step out of the room. "Don't go. What if the ghost gets you?" "Would you rather stay locked in the room?" No, said Goldie. Then come on, remember how the castle gate let us in? Maybe the castle will let us out. Goldie dried her eyes, got to her feet, and as soon as we stepped out of the room, the door shut and locked again, so we couldn't go back. Somehow we felt it's more disconcerting to be locked out than in. To our right there was a stone wall, solid. There was only one way for us to turn, and that was left. We walked down the corridor. As we did, the sconces on the wall lit up their candles, all on their own. Definitely ghosts, said Goldie, clinging to me so tight her nails were like half moons on my skin. Not ghosts, magic. It's an enchanted castle, remember? And I had to admit, it was a good magic, or at least skilled magic. Even the gargoyles, though terrifying, were impressive. Only a very powerful witch and magician could have performed such spells and enchantments. Was the beast the one who cast them? I wondered. The corridor ended at a large staircase leading down the foyer and main doors. There was no sign of the beast, no sentries or servants or guards. Goldie and I looked at each other and then raced down the stairs, ran to the door and turned the knob. We pulled and we pushed, but it was locked and it wouldn't budge. I suppose the castle isn't really on our side, said Goldie. It made my chest pinch to see Goldie so forlorn. She was like a butterfly without its wings. We'll find another way out, I said, trying to sound cheerful and not at all worried. And while we're looking, we can explore the castle. Not everyone gets to see inside a castle, especially an enchanted one. Goldie brightened a little. True, I've always wanted to live in a castle, though a princess, not as a prisoner of a beast. Picky, I chided. A door to our right opened with a creak and almost sounded like an invitation to come inside. We entered an enormous sitting room with lots of cushioned chairs and intricately carved tables. On one table sat vases filled with withered roses. You think the beast would at least bring fresh ones in. He certainly has enough, said Goldie. Red, 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 a voice squeaked. I turned around, and a very colorful bird inside of a golden cage I saw. I had never seen a bird like this. She was green with blue-tipped wings and spoke so much like a regular person. Red, 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 she squawked over and over. She knows your name, Goldie said. Goldie, Goldie, Goldie. Galloping grasshoppers. She knows my name, too. I wonder if she can tell us how to escape. Please, pretty please, bird, tell us how to get out of the castle. Trap, 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 said the bird. Red, Goldie, trapped. That's not very helpful, said Goldie. On the west side of the room was a large stained glass window with a picture of a beautiful woman. Dark, soft curls framed her face. She wore a blue gown and a silver crown with a sapphire in the center of her forehead. The late afternoon sun poured through the panes, spilling colored light on the dusty floor of the castle. There was something strange about the woman in the picture, as though she was somehow enchanted too. Her eyes were too lifelike, her gown seemed softer than glass should look, and the sapphire sparkled like a real stone rather than the colored glass. I wonder who she could be. I walked around gazing at the little figurines and instruments and curious boxes, but I was careful not to touch anything. I could feel the magic coursing through the walls. It tingled in my fingers, buzzed in my ears, and made my hair stand on end. There were dozens of enchantments and spells in the room alone, all woven together, tugging at just one string until it would reveal a tapestry of chaos. Red, look at this. Goldie pointed at a peacock feather quill that was writing on its own. It dipped itself in the ink and wrote in elegant calligraphy on the cream-colored paper atop the desk. Supper is served in the dining hall. Your master awaits. Goldie reached out for the quill. Goldie, don't touch it. Too late. She balled her fist around the quill and began scribbling. Are you a ghost? She spoke. Can you help us escape? Ouch! The pen wrenched itself free from Goldie's grasp and poked her hand. Do not keep the master waiting. The consequences can be quite nasty. Speaking of nasty, you have a booger hanging from your nose. You will find a handkerchief in the drawer on the desk. Goldie's hands flew to her nose. How rude. Do I really have one hanging from my nose? She lifted her chin for me to see. Yeah, I said. Why didn't you say something? Goldie opened the drawer and found a white handkerchief with a rose stitched in the corner. She wiped her nose and began to place it back inside the drawer, and the pen wrote again. You can keep it. I'm not fond of gifts from the nose, only from the heart. It's a rather impertinent pen, said Goldie. But smart, I said, quite fascinated with this writing pen. Goldie sighed. Let's find the dining hall. I'm hungry, and something smells good. Just as she said that, a door swung open to our right, and the smell intensified, strong and inviting. Roasted meat, herbs, and onions, garlic, butter, bread. We were led by our noses until we found the source of the delicious smell. We arrived in an elegant dining hall. The table was loaded with dozens of different dishes, all of them streaming and fragrant. Silver plates had been set out, flickering candles lit in the room. The beast sat at the head of the table. He had already begun to eat, tearing off a leg of lamb and crunching the bone while the juices ran down his fur. When he noticed Goldie and I, he wiped his mouth with a furry paw. "Sir, sit," he said, gesturing to 2 seats on either side of him. When we sat, the silver tureen lifted over the table and ladled some steaming soup into our bowls. It was red tomato soup. "Eat," the beast commanded. Goldie began to eat hers immediately, but I didn't. I didn't think it was poison, but I didn't like the way the beast ordered us to do anything. I expected us to obey like dogs. "I'm not hungry," I said. "Yes, she is," said Goldie. "We're starving. We haven't eaten since this morning with the dwarves, and they eat rocks." I glared at Goldie and clutched my jaw. "I'm not hungry." The beast glared at me. "Eat," he said, his voice low and dangerous. I said nothing, just glared back. He didn't look away, and neither did I, so we were caught in a glaring contest. I had never lost a glaring contest, and I never thought I was winning one with the beast until he roared so loudly and fiercely that a wind rushed my face and blew out several of the candles. I'd be lying if I said that didn't frighten me, but I couldn't show it. This was a battle of wills. I took the silverware as though to eat, but as soon as the beast started to relax, I stubbed the knife and fork into the table and folded my arms over my chest. The beast jumped up upon the table, upsetting the dishes and goblets and the tureen of soup. He shoved his face inches from mine. "You think you're brave, do you?" he said. "But only those who have deepest fears come from my roses, so perhaps you're not so brave after all." I flinched involuntarily. Goldie had frozen, her face splattered with tomato soup and her spoon perched to the tip of her tongue. The beast clambered down from the table, crushing a pie and demolishing a loaf of bread. A tense silence filled the room. The beast went back to attacking his food while glaring at me. After a while, Goldie chirped with her usual chatter. "This food is delicious," she said. "Did you make it?" No. Excuse me. "No." "Then you must have a wonderful cook." "No." "Your mummy?" "No." "Your wife, then?" The beast choked on a bone. "No, my castle provides everything I need." "Oh, how wonderful! Could your castle by chance make golden apple tarts? My mummy makes the most wonderful golden apple tarts. I don't even have a magic castle." "I wonder if they could make them better." The beast scratched at his furry chin, clearly unsure of what to take of Goldie. "What's your name?" Goldie asked. "You never did tell us." "Beast," said the beast. "Of course, but what's your real name? The one your parents gave you? Surely they didn't name you Beast." The beast growled with sharp teeth. "Beast is a perfectly suitable name." Goldie slurped her soup, and when her soup was empty, a knife and a fork sliced some mutton and placed it in her plate with a spoon scooped with some potatoes and beets. My stomach growled noticeably, but I still didn't touch the food. Goldie asked a dozen questions about the castle, how it worked, other things that it could do besides cook, and if Beast thought the castle might be able to make her mummy love her. The beast mostly answered no, or I don't know, with increasing agitation until I feared that he would explode again, so I changed the subject. "How long do you intend to keep us, Beast?" I said. "Until I get what I want." "What do you want?" "The return of what was stolen to me." "But I didn't steal anything. Your gargoyles took the rose." "Yes, the rose. You wished to bring one to your granny, the witch of the woods, you said. And if she's truly a witch, wouldn't she know of such magic herself?" "Yes," I said, "but she's too ill to perform such powerful magic, and you, her granddaughter, cannot perform such magic." "Did she not teach you?" I felt my face heat up. She hasn't taught me everything." "Red's very afraid of magic," said Goldie, with a mouthful of bread. "She nearly killed her granny." Beast's ears twitched. "Nearly killed her? How charming." He tore off a final strip of meat and tossed the bone aside. A pitcher poured wine from his goblet and guzzled it down. "What will you do with us?" I asked. "Make you my servants, of course." "Your servants? What for? You just told us your castle takes care of your needs." The beast casually observed one of his claws. "An enchanted castle takes all the fun out of being in charge. I miss giving orders and having them grudgingly obeyed. You two will fill the hole in my heart." He rose from the table, brushed some crumbs off his fur, and brushed all the scraps from the table onto the floor. "Now clean up this mess." With a swirl of his cloak, he strolled out of the dining room. The door shut behind him. Goldie and I sat there, trying to make sense of this bizarre moment. "At least he's not going to eat us," said Goldie. My stomach screamed. With the beast gone, it didn't seem beneath me to eat something. I reached for the spoon, but it slid from the fingertips. I tried to lift my bowl to drink it, but it jerked and splashed soup in my face. Grr, I growled and clawed for any food within reach, but it jumped and slid away from me. The knife and fork crossed themselves in front of the mutton. I guess supper's over, said Goldie. I think we're supposed to clean up. The beast can't make me do anything. I huffed to the door and turned the knob, and it didn't open. I marched to the other door on the other side of the room, but it wouldn't budge either. It wasn't until Goldie started stacking dishes on the tray that the door clicked and swung ajar. The door led us to the kitchen, which was piled high with pots and pans waiting to be washed. I groaned. It's not so bad, said Goldie. We can get this done, quick as pixies if we work together. But washing dishes in Enchanted Castle was not as easy as Goldie predicted. When we started to wash them, the dishes wrenched themselves out of our hands and smashed against the walls and ceiling, spraying shards of china all over. We tried again, and the same result. I think they're ticklish, said Goldie. They were definitely something. We had to wash them only in circular motion with just the right amount of pressure. Otherwise, they went mad, and we'd had even more of a mess to clean. But the worst was washing the pots and the kettles. I accidentally scrubbed too hard on the black kettle, the kind in which Granny would brew a potion, and it turned itself over on my head, drenching me with dirty dishwater. Goldie burst out laughing in giggles. My only consolation was she slipped up with her own pot and got the same treatment. After the dishes were washed, we were guided by the castle back to our room. On the beds lay 2 white nightgowns, one with red roses and one with yellow roses, stitched on their hems. Goldie went behind the screen to change and exclaimed, "There's a hot bath back here." I heard her plunge into the water. "Oh, this feels glorious. It's been ages since I've had a warm bath. I'm getting all the dirt and grime off me." "Don't forget the boogers," I called. Goldie paused and then said, "Thank you, Red. You're a true friend." After Goldie had finished washing the bath was drained and refilled with clean, steaming water for me. I wanted nothing more than to simply collapse on the bed and sleep, but I was horribly dirty, and I knew I'd sleep better if I bathed. Also, I probably didn't smell like roses or anything, so I soaked and scrubbed off the dirt and dunked my head beneath the water. I lathered my skin with rose petal soap. When I got out of the bath, Goldie was already in bed, fast asleep, her damp curls spread on her pillow. I dressed in my nightgown and sat by the fire and dried my hair with a towel. A brush rose from the table on its own accord and as though to comb through my tangles. "Forget it," I said, and it fell back in place. I got into bed which was soft as feathers and satiny smooth. This room didn't look like a prison or feel like one. I'd been well fed, and I smelled better than I had in probably ever, but all those comforts had suffocating effect. I would rather rot in a dungeon than be fed and pampered while Granny was laying dying. I was so close to saving her, and just outside the castle were the red roses, but how could I get them without the beast or his gargoyles attacking me? Far away, a wolf howled, high and mournful. My heart leapt. I slipped out of bed and ran to the window. I couldn't see him, but it was Wolf. I was sure of it. He was calling to me and mourning at the same time. "Come," he howled. I could feel the sadness in his cry. He felt like he had failed me, and I felt I failed him. Who would protect him now? I paused. I pressed my nose to the window pane. "I'm safe," I told him. "Keep yourself safe, friend." I tried to send my message to him, but the words came out in a whisper. Sleep did not come easily. I kept spinning the events of the days in my head. The roses, the beast, Granny. I suspected the beast would have let us go if I hadn't mentioned Granny's name. Something about it had sparked his interest. I wondered if perhaps the beast had imprisoned me for some ransom. He said he wanted something that had been taken from him. What could it be? Whatever it was, it seemed he needed magical help to get it back. He needed Granny's help. And that takes us to chapter 22, which we will read tomorrow. I hope you have a good rest of the day. Bye.